Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hello, my friends. There are all these religions. They should be there to help people to make it easier to connect with the divine. And sometimes that does help. If we go to the essence of the religions, they can be very helpful. But then, like with everything, the human stuff has come in and they became organizations with human interests. And there is always a lot of stuff in it that is not necessarily helpful, that has been twisted so that the teaching is more in the interest of the tradition, of the religion, than for the individual to connect with the divine. But nevertheless, in all religions, there have always been great beings. With the help of their teachings, they were capable of piercing through all that and go to the essence, and with the help of that religion, still connect with the divine. It depends also the sincerity of the one who is seeking. That there is really that thirst for truth, the thirst for being free, and not simply trying to make the mind comfortable by thinking, okay, I know what's going on, I understood. Now, Nelly, she asked me, she likes Jesus, but there are always things that are a bit creating insecurity. And there are the two things in Jesus' story that she mentioned now. First, that Jesus is supposed to be immaculate conception, that there was not the usual act of a man and a woman joining in order to make it possible that Jesus is born. That is the official story. And she asked me what I think about it. Well, I do believe that Jesus was a great divine being. I don't believe what the church said, that he is the only Son of God. Jesus has also never claimed that. And that he has manifested in this world in a special way is very well possible. Now, really, Nelly, I don't know. I haven't had direct insight in the matter myself. Now, there are all kinds of theories. Swami Ramatirtha, he was a great saint and he had insight in a lot of things, but his story is about that immaculate conception, yes, it was immaculate, but in spite of that, there was actually an intercourse. Mary, she was actually a mystic. She was not simply a completely uh, unknowing girl to her, whom this happened. She was in a group that was very active at the time, the SNL. In English, SNL, yes. And actually, it seems from different mystical sources, we can hear that she was quite an advanced being there. Now, she had an uncle who also was an adept in that same mystical group. And Ramatirtha's surmises then when she was visiting her uncle, they both were in a kind of samadhi state, but at the same time, they actually did what was necessary that the divine child could be born. I don't know whether this is the truth. Within all this magic show, anything can be possible. So don't you worry whether this is really exactly as the church is telling it or not. What matters that Jesus is certainly a special being, was a special being from the beginning. Like he's not the only one. There are time and again beings born, they come already conscious. They don't go through that delusion we all usually go, getting sucked into the personal stories and then have to struggle out. On top of that, with the help of Mary, then he grew up already in that mystical circle. And no wonder he totally surprised the scribes when he was 12 years old because of his deep knowledge, his direct knowledge. After that, in the Bible, we don't hear anything about him until he's 30. But many groups say he went then in between to Asia. He studied with yogis, with Mahatmas, before he came back and was active. Now, whether this was purely a conception, like they say, from the divinity directly initiated, or whether there was a human instrument there to go the usual channels, it doesn't really matter. Jesus is the same, no matter whether the story is like this. Of course, then for the church, who wants to say he is the only Son of God, then it's important that this should be like this. So they have very much insisted on that as a sign that this is something totally unique, as it has never happened and should never happen. But it doesn't really matter. Everybody is a manifestation of that same divinity. But for most of us, we are not clear about that. We are not aware about it. We forget our origin. And I can believe that Jesus, like others, have had that awareness from the beginning. So he was immaculate, no matter what happened to make it possible that physically he could appear. For me, doesn't it doesn't matter. Now you say also the second thing was what is that resurrection? Now, it's very well possible, as he has been an adept and studying with yogis, that when he was on the cross, that he was throwing himself into a samadhi, that he appeared like that. And then when he was back with his disciples, he came out of his samadhi and he was still alive. The church insists that he died, that he actually went down in the darkness and after 3 days emerged and resurrected. That's what they are celebrating at Easter. I think Jesus, he was capable of appearing dead but not being dead. And then he was just letting the life come back in his body and was then active only in secret for some time. And then, according to the Christian story, he lifted up to heavens in his body, while many different mystical groups, they say, no, actually he went back to Asia and has been living a whole life span there. And there is a grave in Kashmir that says it's Jesus that is buried there. Again, for me, it doesn't really matter. Uh, if you have read Yogananda's story, the biography of a yogi, then you can see there Yogananda's guru, after he left his body, and actually they did bury his body, but then sometime later he appeared in a physical body to Yogananda. So you can say he also was resurrected, but he didn't go in his old body, but simply produced the body to appear in front of Yogananda. But he was there physically. Yogananda could hug him. Now, whether Jesus died and then appeared with another body, or whether he just withdrew the life and then later sent it back again into his body and reanimated his body, it doesn't really matter. I think Jesus is a pure manifestation of divinity. I think the same is true for Krishna, for Buddha, for others. We all are manifestation of that divinity. And some, they always know and come already with great power, and others, they never know. And then there are many who came and were also in the usual forgetfulness. And then through their work, through their sadhana, they could cleanse their perception and became aware of that same divinity through their sadhana. I mean, the divinity is not the result of their sadhana. That is always there. It's never absent. And this is not only so for Jesus, but for everybody and everything that is manifesting. But Jesus was aware of it and was a great light for the world. And so all the details that they are after that creating in the mythical life story, they don't matter so much. You need not take them to the letter, even if the church may insist that is exactly what has happened. These are again in the interest of the church. They produced a teaching that is serving very much the power of the church. So if you love Jesus, as you say, then just open your heart to that great being and don't wonder too much about the details they are telling, whether they are true exactly as they say it or not. As he is immaculate in his being, you can very well say uh, that's an immaculate conception, even if it's not exactly as they describe it. And it seems that he went through that story, that he did let it happen, that they nailed him on the cross. And if a great being like Jesus is doing so, then that releases a great energy for the help for the people who believe in him. But then they also put all kinds of explanations and stories on it. We need not worry about it. Look at him as an example, an inspiring example, how pure divinity can manifest. And then it is our job to aspire to that. It is our job to really find that divinity in ourselves. As I said, I don't have direct insight exactly historically what has happened with Jesus, but it doesn't matter to me. So maybe you better also don't worry too much about what exactly literally has happened, because these are details that have been puffed up by the church because it serves their own purpose. There was so much written about Jesus during his time and after his time. And then when the Christian leaders decided they want to now really write down his story and what they will be, what they will put in the Bible and what not, they came together, and not only the religious leaders, but also political leaders. The Roman emperor was interested in creating that religion in order to create it in such a way that it is also not simply telling the story about divinity, but at the same time making it to an organization to control people, to lead people according to how they want. And so many things in the organized religions, we need, if it doesn't appeal, we need not worry about it, but come back to right to the essence, to that which helps us to connect with our own divinity. If we if we connect with religion like this, it's helpful. If we go after the latter, then people have the tendency to get fanatic and fight with each other. For what? In the name of God. All right. Um, I won't talk more about this now. Just never mind. That immaculate being is an inspiration, and you, in your true nature, are that immaculate divine being. Hey, Jasmine, stop it. Make all the noise here. Hey? You are never born. You will never die. And so, of course, Jesus also was never born. He never died. Whether physically it happened this way when he was born or that way, whether physically it happened in this way or that way when he left his body, it doesn't matter. That which helps us to connect with our own divinity, that matters. And if there is a Mahatma who is inspiring us, then this is very a great help. And then the details about the stories that you are usually quite mythical around Mahatmas, they don't really matter. Okay. Hariom, Hariom. I stop talking just by myself, and I'm asking you, my friends, is there anyone who would like to come in and say something? You're welcome. Hello, Floyd.
Hi, Werner. So this I was supposed to ask you about something similar
Oh,
about
yeah.
Jesus and Mary,
Uh-huh.
and maybe because it's Christmas, everyone remembers them. So, so there was a movie about Mary. There's a new movie,
Mhm.
and and they show that she's a simple girl, but somehow she becomes the vessel of there is Mary also in my background, if you can see.
Uh-huh.
So So they say she is a simple girl who is, sort of chosen as the vessel of, as the vessel to carry Christ.
Yeah.
So what I feel, I don't know if it is a sharing or a question, but there'll also be a question, I think. But what I feel is maybe they've just taken the mystical language and sort of, presented it as a sort of literal thing,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
Maybe it just meant that, Mary was so devoted or so innocent in some way
Mm.
that she could be the right, right fertile uh, woman to birth someone like Jesus Christ.
Sure.
Because in the
Yes.
tantric tradition also they say when there is deep love, the conception is of a very divine soul can get conceived. If there is deep love between the man and the woman, if it is pure and divine. And they also show that Joseph really falls in love with her and that kind of thing, because I don't think it is a conformist version. But the church, I think, had a lot of problem with that.
Uh-huh. With the new movie.
That, yeah, with the new movie, because it has their main objection was because the lead actress was an Israeli. So they had a problem with that. Then they had a problem with Joseph falling in love with Mary because it was supposed to be like an arrangement. He was commanded to be with her.
Yeah.
But I don't see what is wrong if he is also in love with her.
Absolutely
But
nothing.
it's but it is something which is, I think it is a well-made movie in some ways. But there's a lot of this, very literal meaning. And I myself, I was born in a Christian family, a Roman Catholic family.
Yeah.
So I see that, there is this very literal understanding that, okay, Jesus' Immaculate Conception means uh, is there is no sex involved or there is no nothing involved, So they are very rigid about that
Yeah.
and not open to the idea that it could also be metaphorical. Same thing about resurrection.
Yeah.
And they are also not open to new information which is coming, like research or
Yeah.
historical things and all of that. But somehow I've made peace with that, that okay, fine, they are not going to understand. And I have my own way of honoring Jesus and Mary. But uh, and it is not so different from honoring any other, divine being or something
Yes,
like that.
yes.
So, but my question is like, why is, this idea of, but compared to all the other religions, like let's say, few people know Ramana Maharshi, or few people know, few people are connected with Gautam Buddha, but what is, means I'm just speculating, and maybe you can also speculate with some more experience, that what is the reason why Jesus is such a cult figure, because there's all kinds of research. Even this
Mm,
Iranian American journalist, he said that Reza Aslan, he said that Jesus never existed. He was just one of the activists against the Roman Empire,
mm.
and he gave a lot of evidence. But why is this idea of Jesus like a very cult figure in all of the world? Because even Christmas and Jesus, it's like a very strong, figure, which I don't think any other figure has such an interest or following.
Yes, and it became so big in the world because the political power was also behind it. The, the Roman emperor, who was totally approving about how they compiled the Bible, and then after that he made Christianity as a state religion in the Roman Empire. Not because he was not even a Christian himself. But he saw this is a religion where we can keep people very obedient. If you tell them that you obey the church and the state, they work together, and if you do that, then you go to heaven, and if you don't do that, then you go to hell. Then people are very pliable, that you can move them the way you want. And so out of that European culture came the American thing, and they just, wherever they went from Europe, they converted everybody because it gave them also the power over the locals. And so it became such a big thing, but it was not purely a spiritual thing. It was a political thing that it became so strong. And it's still, uh, if you have that religion and say, okay, this is the Son of God, he's the only Son of God, and either you believe in him and you go to heaven, or you don't believe in him and you go to hell, then people can be very much kept in limits and controlled. So this was very much supported, and it's not uh, because Jesus is so totally different than others, like you mentioned Buddha, but because he has been pushed in that position for not very spiritual reasons. That doesn't diminish anything of Jesus' greatness, but the role that has been now spread in the world and why it has been so strong is mainly also that were political machinations behind it. The Buddhists didn't go around and convert people to Buddhism. If somebody wanted to come, they could, but they didn't go. And whereas the Christians were super active wherever they went to somehow declare to the local people that their religion is wrong and they have to come to the right one, scaring them that they go to hell if they don't do so.
Yeah, I think it's also that the Western world has better ways of marketing, whether it is with fear or greed,
Yes,
even the
exactly.
pharma industry.
Yes, exactly. It was totally the marketing thing is also political thing, and that's because they became so powerful in the world economically. They also managed to make their religion so It went together. The politics and the church, they very much were working together.
Hmm. But since you mentioned Yogananda, the
Hmm.
interesting fact is that I think Yogananda did the reverse because he included, maybe he got the inspiration, but he
Hmm.
included Jesus in, the Kriya Yoga masters,
Yes,
his
yes,
photo of Jesus, and then he went to America and all that. So one of their main ashram is in Dwarahat in Uttarakhand,
yes,
near Almora.
yes,
So at that place, the photo of Jesus was there, and also there were few Christian families from the
yeah,
British time who were
yeah,
still there, and they used to visit the ashram.
yeah.
And the photo of Jesus was there. Then some Hindu, sort of some political reason or whatever, the Hindus said, no, Jesus is not required. Yogananda was an Indian guru.
Mhm.
So Jesus is not required, and we won't come and we won't support the ashram if uh, Jesus photo is there. So they removed a photo of Jesus, and the few Christian families, they stopped coming to that ashram.
Yeah, yeah.
So in a way, I think he also used this image of Jesus to make his, uh, whatever brand more acceptable in the Western world. I don't know if it is true or maybe he actually got some vision. But there are some Indian saints like Heda Khan Baba, he would also say, that we should invoke Jesus and all that. So
Mm.
I don't know if it is to appeal to the Westerners or they really regarded him as a yogi. I don't know.
I think many of them did. That is
Mm.
the one thing why uh, I felt more comfortable with Hindus than in my Christian upbringing, because that openness is there, that basically
Mm.
the divine can appear in any form, that it is not restricted to a form. And so for a Hindu, it is not difficult, as they have already their Rama and their Krishna and their Shiva and their Vishnu, then to say, okay, there is another divine appearance there. And but they cannot accept that he is the only son of God and everything is wrong. But they can accept, yes, of course, that divinity can very well manifest in a powerful and pure way in another place also.
So as a yogi, as a guru, they accept him.
Yes, of course.
Maybe not as an Ishvara, But
I, I,
my question actually was originally, was about love. Like, because I went to church for my entire childhood and all that.
mhm,
But what is this love, or what have you understood about the love which Jesus spoke about? Because they say his core teaching was love. And he said, love thyself, love others. That is
yes,
my core teaching. You can forget about rest of the commandments if you want to.
yes,
So I didn't understand what this love is. And somewhere his message is a bit Advaitic, where he says, the first shall be, the last shall be the first, first shall be the last,
yeah.
you know. The kingdom of God belongs to those who have nothing and things like that. So uh, uh, can you like share? That was my original question, but I forgot it in all the, details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was speaking about love, and as you most probably have heard me this, repeatedly saying, although here in the Advaita place people talk mainly or only about consciousness, and pure consciousness is that first expression of the divinity, the base. But it's not only consciousness, it's also pure love and pure energy. And you can choose any one of the three as a main aspect to connect and approach that indescribable divinity. And Jesus' teaching was mainly about love, and that love is not what we call usually love, that emotion, that feeling love, but that basic love, that pure love, that divine love Jesus is talking about, is that awareness that everything is connected, that everything is the manifestation of that same divinity. And so in that because of that, he can say, love your neighbor like yourself. Because both your neighbor and you both are a manifestation of that same divinity. And the love is that aspect that is aware of everything is connected, nothing is really separate. When he said, and the one who is poor is going to heaven, then he doesn't mean necessarily how much money he has, but the one who is having all those ideas about himself, all these very strict ideas about that self-image, and is very self-important and totally focused and identified with that self-image, is very rich in that sense of the me, I, me, mine. And the one who is letting go that is getting poorer and poorer of that. When he said like this, he meant you have to find that purity, that you are letting go of all that I, me, mine self-interest and become aware of that one divinity. And the more you become aware of that one divinity in yourself, the more you become aware that everything is the manifestation of that same divinity, and the love simply comes automatically.
So another thing is Jesus, he never spoke about reincarnation, though it is said that means now the research says that he was exposed to Buddhist monasteries. Even in Buddhist monasteries in Ladakh, they found his, books and records that he was there.
Yes.
So probably I don't know if he came to Arunachala or something, but maybe because there is a very nice Sufi shrine in Arunachala
Yeah.
in the main town. So maybe if the Sufis can reach, maybe he also reached. But the question is, some people say the Indian gurus or whatever I've heard, they say that he did not talk about reincarnation because that region, Palestine or whatever it was called at that time, it was a poor region. It was a poor country. So people were living only for, that life, for that day. So he didn't want to distract them with the idea that they will be reborn in another country and then they will not be interested in. They were somehow opposing the Roman civilization.
Yeah.
So they may lose interest in that movement of opposing because if they have a next life, they may not, they may lose interest in that freedom or whatever they were doing.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, but is there have you understood any reason why he was not talking about karma or reincarnation, or is it an Advaitic perspective? Because in Advaita also the gurus like Nisarga Datta, then Ramana, they don't talk about karma or past lives and things like that.
Right. I think it's both of those. That he did try to bring basically the direct teaching. After that, it was corrupted in so many ways, but he was pointing to go directly at the source. Now, they say Jesus never talked about reincarnations, but a number of mystical groups in the early Christianity, they were sure that he did also talk, but then after that, the church, when they created the Bible, they could cut everything out. And those mystical groups, they themselves did believe in some kind of reincarnation. So the teaching, official teaching of the church has very much been tailored after that, not by Jesus, but by the Christian authorities that wanted a religion that fits their purpose. But as you say, even then, the great Mahatmas, even if they live within the religion where they talk about karma and reincarnation, they usually don't insist. Ramana didn't insist about such things. Nisargadatta, he said sometimes this, sometimes that. He was according to teaching according to what he felt is best to the listener at that moment. And Ramana, he was, of course, he was brought up as a Hindu Brahmin, so he was in that tradition, but he, in his spirit, he was open for everyone, no matter what religion they came from. And he said things to people who wanted to convert from one religion to another, that if you want to convert from this religion to that religion, then you have not understood much of either of them. He always went to the source, to that essence that is there at the base of all the religions, and made that important, and not the all the religious details. Now, it has become a very traditional Hindu place, the Ramanashram, and he let it happen because most of the people, they need forms, and he didn't stop it, but he himself was not like encouraging people to go that way. And and the Buddha the same. The Buddha was in a way, he was also living in a time where there, like 500 years before Christ. And at that time, the God idea in Hinduism was not very transcendental. That came later, that transcendence of the divinity. There were more local deities, and they are sometimes questionable because you have to please them that they give you what what you want. And so it's always a barter, like a business. And Buddha sort of did away with all that and didn't encourage much of all that form worship, but people needed that, and it sprung up in Buddhism exactly again, the same. Now there are all these different Buddhas that are being worshipped. So people need, for most of the people, they need forms and they need structures. But Jesus was not, Jesus was not a Christian. He was a Jew. The Christianity was created after Jesus by his followers. But he was also, he was a universal spiritual being who tried to convey something to people to help them to come to that true religion, to the essence of religion. Like so many teachers try to get people back to that essence, and then after that, the followers may make all kinds of things out of it. Hey, you, no, noisy, you're having a satsang here.
Yeah. So the last thing I want to ask is now, like, for example, this is, yeah, like if I live in a place now, I'm sure, the place where I live in Goa, you will see more people going to church than Italy or Germany or anywhere in Europe,
Yeah,
because people are still very devout and they are very, you know,
yeah,
what do you say, almost extremist about all these ideas.
yeah.
That yes, Jesus was born in a certain way, this, that. Of course, they won't follow any of the 10 commandments. They'll break all the 10 commandments. But when it comes to that pride, that if someone says, no, Jesus was a great man, but he was not son of God or whatever, they are not ready to even accept it. It's like you kill this guy. So in that kind of society, um, I don't know, people like us who have sort of walked on different paths and seen that everything leads to the same essence. do we have some kind of dharma to explain or creatively put the idea, or is it okay that, we live our own life, let them do what they like, and it's their karma, So how do we see this,
Yes.
Because they
Basic.
can be friends, they can be, surrounding
Hmm.
you all that. And for me personally, it is quite suffocating,
Yeah.
when everyone is stuck with the religious ideas, and
Yeah.
then, to sit, to be among that energy, amidst that energy is difficult,
Hmm. Well, but I recommend that you really you live your spirituality. And if somebody shows openness to and is interested in what you think and what you believe, then by all means you can tell them, but don't try to go after the other people and tell them. They will not be open and it will just create trouble. But if they can see that you are sincere with your practice, with your religion, with your spirituality, and it's radiating from you, then at least they may not start to accept it, what you are doing in their mind, but still there is an opening because they understand, yes, there is something there. It cannot be so totally wrong. So never mind if they talk like this. You translate it for yourself into a way that it leads you to the essence and don't worry about the details. But it's not your dharma, it's not your duty to go and try to change their beliefs. No.
Yeah, part of the attempt was like some idea had come that, okay, present it very scientific, like quantum physics, and, present it very scientifically so that it doesn't bother their rituals, because even those of us who are not religious, like let's say some of us are not religious, but we still have our rituals, we need to have coffee in the morning, we have some ritual,
Yeah.
connected with our life. So let them continue with their rituals, but at the same time, understand this from a scientific perspective. But what I've realized is most people don't have the sort of intellectual bandwidth to understand something scientifically, or even Vedanta. I think most people cannot wrap their head around it. So then a second creative idea I got, which of course I don't think it is practical, was to create a church, uh, which is still a Christian church, still has bhakti, but also you have elements of the essence of Advaita. And I saw one church, it was not very modern concept, but the setup was modern. Like they would have, singing bands, you know, band singing, you can dress whatever you like, you can dress jeans, t-shirt, you can meet cool people, you are not asked what is your religion. So something, of all these ideas I was thinking, but I think it is a bit, yeah, I think the overall church structure is very strong, and they have a lot of land, lot of resources. So all these things are, yeah, it is better to focus on my own sadhana.
Yes,
Thanks,
yes.
Vana. Thank you.
It's always best that we focus on really spiritually opening, unfolding, expanding. And then, if on the way somebody comes along and is interested, we can, of course, we can give a helping hand, we can inspire them, we can tell them what what has helped us. But that openness has to be there. You cannot create it. But anyhow, I think it's an area now of great changes, and this power structures as they exist now, they are they are a bit crumbling down, and something more harmonious can come out of it. You don't have to try to institutionalize it again by creating a new church.
The new church was not necessarily like a church, but it's more like, like the satsangs you have in Tiru, They
Right.
are also
It's,
like churches, like some satsangs, 100 people, 200 people.
right, right.
They are
I mean,
also like churches in some way, like group gatherings. but more like satsang where people come, connect. Because in a big church in Goa, no one connects, like at a time there'll be 600 people. No one actually connects. The idea is that you just come and few people who know each other, they meet, but otherwise it is just listen to the whole thing and maybe take a nap in the middle and then somehow come out of it.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think I understood what you're saying. Yeah. Thanks, Werner. Thank you.
If on your way you feel like creating a spiritual center, you can do so. But the main center is what is happening in you. That is what matters most. And then we may manifest it in this way or that way externally. It doesn't really matter. But your own inner growth, your own inner development and that radiance that comes to the people, that is what matters most. In that way, you really do make a difference. Whether we are creating this or creating that is not so important. Mhm. Okay, shall we leave it at that?
Thank you, Werner. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
I see Nava coming in. Nava, hello.
Hi, Werner. Um, you've talked about consciousness and love and energy.
Yes,
Could you please say more about energy? I don't even have a more specific question than that.
yes. Energy is that which makes everything alive. Everything moves. Everything in manifestation is always alive. Without that Shakti, without that prana, without that energy at the base, nothing could exist like that. Even an atom is not something static. It's a continuous, energetic thing going on that gives that illusion of solid matter. But actually, it's just energy that is vibrating in a certain way. And uh, every plant, every animal, every human is alive. Without the prana, there is no life, no life manifestation. Consciousness is the essence that without the consciousness, there is no perception of anything. The, the energy is the Divine Mother. Consciousness is Shiva, sitting and meditating. The energy is the Divine Mother dancing and doing all kinds of things. And you, as a sadhak, you can focus more on consciousness or you can focus more on energy or you can focus more on love as a devotee. But the yogi is mainly focusing on energy, is doing all the yoga exercises, doing all the breathing exercises, and especially through the breathing becomes more and more aware of the energy that is behind the breath, the energy that is always manifesting in rhythms, and everything is in vibration, is in rhythms. And so, if the yogi learns to feel that energy in his own body, feels the rhythm of the heart, and is aware of the breath, becomes more and more of aware of the prana that is prior to that, that makes it possible, that moves everything. And by becoming aware of the prana, all those energetic knots that we have accumulated usually that prevent us from being healthy and natural, that are being undone, and the whole manifestation becomes more and more harmonious manifestation, an energetic, harmonious manifestation. And in that harmonious manifestation, the conscious experience can unfold beautifully and easily.
Can there be a problem with too much energy?
Whether I have a problem ever with what?
No, can too much energy be a problem?
There is never too much energy, but sometimes the energy is not balanced, and then it may create problems. And then it's not because it's too much energy, but the unbalance of the energy may create problems in the body, in the mind, restlessness. And uh, people sometimes told me, when I said you can do this exercise or that will lift up your energy. Oh, no, 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 I have already too much energy. It drives me nuts. I can't sleep. I cannot, I'm already too energetic. But it's not because there is too much energy. It's because the energy is not balanced out.
Because I often feel like that, especially when I'm meditating. There's so much restlessness.
Yes.
I've spoken to you about it, and I don't quite know how to work with it other than movement. But to just be able to sit still,
Mm.
I can work through it, but the energy is still seems there's too much, so you're saying it's imbalance. So what
Eh,
can one do with that?
What you can do, you can watch that restlessness and then maybe redirect your attention on simply breathing in and breathing out and relaxing. And if you do that for some time, that restlessness may totally calm down and disappear. But if it doesn't, then there's nothing wrong that you get up, walk around, move a bit, and in that way uh, get the stress a bit out of the system, and then you can sit again and try again. But you don't have to fight with that restlessness or with that feeling that is something is not quite right. There is a tension there. Then instead of that, redirect the attention to a simple thing like consciously breathing and relax. Breathe and relax. And then if you do that for some time, that tension and that restlessness may start to simply slowly evaporate. And finally it's not there.
I've read somewhere that the restlessness in the body comes from the restlessness in the mind. What do you think about that?
I think it can go both ways. That we have stuff in the mind, that there is a problem, a mental problem, and that we hold on to and then think about it. And of course, this has an energetic effect because every thought, every emotion is riding on energy. It's not separate. Without that energy, there is no thought. Without that energy, there is no emotion. And we can, on that level, create mental troubles that after that have their energetic, unpleasant effects, like restlessness or tensions in the body, and create, if we keep on doing it, create diseases. But it can also be the other way around, that there is some, there can also be in the surroundings, in the atmosphere, something that is agitating the energy. And then after that, we follow up with the mind and start to think about things and turn it around and turn it around and make it maybe worse like this.
Mhm.
So it can go both ways. It's not that the one is necessarily prior to the other, but they are very much connected. Yes.
Okay, last question. It has to do with thoughts. What I'm reading in Who Am I in Ramana Maharshi, he keeps talking about the thoughts stopping
Mhm.
at some point.
Yes.
It's certainly not my experience.
Yes.
Um, so sometimes the thoughts are more in the forefront, sometimes more in the background. and they'll settle for a few seconds and then they come back. Does that really happen that you get to a point where they're not so, don't even know what word to use, but so much in the picture?
Yes, yes, it is possible. But that doesn't mean you have to try with force to control your thoughts and to stop your thoughts. Even if you can do so with a lot of will, then as long as you put that will and that concentration there, it may work for some time, but it's like building up, and as soon as you let go of the control, woo, it comes like
Mhm.
like a waterfall. The, the way to go about is exactly again the same. Learn to redirect the attention, that we withdraw being so interested in what we are thinking. And you say sometimes the thoughts are more in the background and then they disturb less. But
Mhm.
and then if you continue being connecting consciously with that immediacy, with that immediate experience of being conscious, alive now, in one way or another, then the thoughts that usually go on and on and on and on may slow down, and sometimes they may totally stop. Not by way of forcible control, it doesn't work. It works for moments, uh, but then after that they come rushing back with renewed strength. uh, are you doing mainly inquiry, or what actually are you doing mainly when you sit?
Um, it varies. Right now, I've gone back to just sitting and
Hmm.
focusing on the breath.
Yes,
Just very, very simple. That's been more recent.
yes.
And one of the things I try to do is that when catch myself once again thinking, I just go right back to the breath instead of I used to react. Oh
Hmm.
no, there I am thinking again.
Yeah,
Right. And so I've been more and more able to just say, okay, I've been thinking, back to the breath. Very, very simple.
yes. That's perfect. Continue like this, and then the thoughts will bother you less. But of course, it's then not only what comes out of our own mind, but we are energetically connected with whole humanity. I mean, we are connected with everything, but as long as we are appearing in a human form, we are specially connected on the human level. And then we are connecting automatically also with their minds and with their restlessness. And there is like a human mind for mind for whole humanity. It's a formidable thing, and it's full of tensions and restlessness, and it's so easy to get sucked into that current. It needs a real discipline that we become at all aware that it's there, and then if we keep on consciously, not fighting with it, but redirecting the attention, and then there is more and more detachment from the thoughts. So, by all means, that is wonderful. Just continue doing that. You just breathe and relax. And if you become aware, oh, I'm totally in the thoughts again, then you just redirect it again back home. Breathe in, breathe out, relax.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hariyo. Hariyo. Is there anybody else who would like to come in, say something? You're welcome. Hello, Yosh. You still have,
Hello.
there you are. Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. No specific thing to explain or anything, just kind of wanted to connect or experience the benefits of kind of expressing or having a direct communication here. Yeah, it's interesting to me to observe the spiritual path changing and developing for me. It seems like inside or kind of in my heart there's this understanding that, you know, we're all kind of going through uh, everything that we do, but then um, and I guess also an experiential understanding that it's constantly changing. Like I can't um, nail, I can't like put anything permanently anywhere, and that's kind of something that been that's been helping, I guess, quite a bit. So yeah, in terms of what Floyd was saying earlier, I had a similar experience. That was the same as me, actually. The growing up in a fairly hardline Christian, wasn't Roman Catholic, but thing. So yeah, I just wanted to say that I appreciated what he said, what he was talking about a lot. It kind of gave me a mirror understanding or bit of a reflection for my own experience. I guess on that, I guess I wonder if you're able to um, kind of spy anything within me or hear that you're seeing that might need to help be more kind of open up or reveal.
Petir, can you say this again?
Just if there's anything that just from what I'm saying or from in your own experience, uh, if you can see spy anything from kind of how I've been sharing, like that you're able to help me to clarify or reveal, if if that makes sense.
Basically makes sense. Yes.
Thanks.
Anyhow, you don't worry. You be honest with yourself. You look at yourself. You see when you are doing things that are hurting you, and then learn to avoid it. You look at yourself. You see when you are holding on to thought lines and to emotions that are disturbing you, that create obstacles, that you learn to detach from them, that you redirect your thoughts in a more constructive way. And then, if you are alert, if you look at yourself honestly, then you see what helps you, what is supporting you, and what is rather destructive and is always rather eating up the energy instead of helping you to unfold your experience. And if you go about it with that sincerity, with that honesty, with that alertness, then you get all the inner guidance that you need step by step.
Thank you. One thing that I kind of have a question regarding is there seems to be a kind of energy that appears every now and again for me. That I'm not sure if it's like just the longing for the truth or if I've got to change in some way. It's like this kind of fixation on the, not fixation, but the mind looping around this idea of needing to be I don't know, do sadhana or be construct.
Oops.
It's all sounds like it's. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, for a moment there was a blank, but I can hear you again.
Cool. It's all like, you could say it's good stuff but I should be doing, which I don't really know if there are any shoulds in this whole. If there's a should, but I'm not sure if kind of giving it attention now is just makes it bigger but yeah, I just kind of wanted to share about it because it's, for me, the teachings are very much like sink into like this this sense of everything is as it is, and recognizing and relaxing into that is really the only sadhana. But whether or not that's the case, or my kind of what seems to be an identification is allowing that to be seen more clearly, I don't know, so I'm not sure.
Well, again, I'm saying you just be honest with yourself. And then you see that many things you can, in a way, just let them go as they are. But then you will also see aspects that you feel, not because somebody has said it, but you feel certain aspects need to change because they lead invariably always to pain and to suffering. And there we can start to work on it. And not the terrible work of doing tremendous tapas or something like that, but just have that honest, good look at yourself and see which tendencies that are disturbing and leading to destruction and leading to pain. And we need not suffer if we don't make ourselves suffer. So it is not that the spirituality is that you have to pick up a bunch of rules, of do's and don'ts, and then live strictly according to them. But it's more that they are a bit the pointer of the direction, but then you look at yourself and you see what needs to change. If we are honest, we see. And those things that need to change, we can also change. And there are many things that need not necessarily be changed. But it's then not helpful when you see there is a certain tendency to create certain unnecessarily pains and suffering again and again, that there is nothing wrong with deciding it. We can change it, but not think everything is already perfect as it is. If we see something that really hurts, then we can also start to remove it. You don't have to torture yourself. You don't have to be strictly according to this rule and that rule, but you can make it into the basic rule, that which helps you to connect and be expansive, that is desirable. And that which is an obstacle, it doesn't help you to connect, but rather disconnects you from yourself, from your conscious experiencing yourself, your being alive in the present. Everything that disconnects you, you rather learn to detach from that and let go. It's not because you should be a good boy and then you get a reward, or if you are a bad boy, you're being punished. This reward and punish is entirely a human idea. It's simply that we reasonably look at ourselves and then automatically will start to let go things that are hurtful. Those changes, they are all right. We don't have to somehow philosophically brush them away and say, no, no, that's how it is, and we just have to accept how it is. We can accept the situation that they are there, but we can also see that, all right, there are certain aspects in me that make me always again and again suffer, and suffering is not natural. Nobody likes to suffer because it's not that natural. Everybody longs deeply to be happy because deep down everybody knows this is our natural state. Naturally, we are full of joyousness, full of happiness, full of beauty and creativity, and it wants to express itself. So that wanting to be happy is nothing wrong. Longing for truth is nothing wrong. And if we see there are obstacles in our psychological makeup that prevent us from really opening our heart, then there is nothing wrong working on them, and not by way of punishing, not by way of feeling, oh, I'm bad, but simply because it makes sense that those obstacles are being seen and slowly put out of the way.
So this, without needing to punish oneself, it kind of has been. I'm only realizing just now, or just before, how much for me the spiritual pursuit has had this kind of uh, quality of like pursuing the path with this kind of the I don't know, maybe it wasn't punishment, but something. I remember when I was younger, um, when I studied to study, I was already always quite disciplined, but uh, it had the same quality, you know. And I guess if that quality is actually, even if it's kind of outwardly might be assisting or me to, you know, I don't know, success or something like that, have success in life. But inwardly, yeah, I don't really. If it's punishment, if it's kind of harming myself or another person, then it's not. It doesn't seem like it's ultimately going to be effective, right?
But it's
So what about the excuse then to kind of like, oh, this is it. This has been keeping me on the kind of path. I found it really helpful for the kind of, yeah, self-discipline or something that it's given me, but maybe there's a time naturally when it drops away, or I'm not sure.
well. I mean, you don't have to torture yourself, but a little bit of discipline is very helpful. But you can do it in a playful way. Still be sincere and disciplined without thinking, oh, it's a terrible, terrible task I have to perform.
Mm.
But to give a little nudge, maybe every day, to spend some time really quiet by yourself and not being distracted, this is very helpful. And being a bit disciplined with it is helpful. We don't have to right make it torturous, and because then it stops to be very helpful. But a little bit discipline, and obviously you say you had to have this discipline for your studies, so you have that capacity. You need not think now that this is something that stands in the way and I have to push it away. No, no, no. Go about your daily life and have your routine to some extent, and be somewhat disciplined about it. That is not anything wrong about that. That is simply helpful.
Thank you.
Okay. Wish you well. Hari Om.
Thank you.
Hari Om.
Carry on.
If somebody wants to come in, we can take a little more time.
Hello.
Hello, Vikas.
Werner, I know time is less. If you can tell us how to go about doing meditation.
Generally, you just want me to say how to go about meditation. I'm not going to say in what way to meditate, because you can meditate in so many different ways, but meditation for me means to really connect with your essence. And so you are meditating, whether you are formally sitting with crossed legs and meditating, or whether you are walking through a crowd, and if there you are capable of connecting, then you are also meditating. The essence of meditation is that it somehow or other, your attention is not going all over the place, but comes back to the essence, to yourself, to that which makes the experience possible.
Okay. But there are other meditation techniques where they say that, okay, you connect, you think that there is a light which is flowing through your body, and then you think that all your negative emotions, they are grounding to the earth. And then, so is this a separate kind of meditation, or if I just do my own mantra chanting, is that enough, or should I do something else also?
No, you do you like your mantra chanting?
Yes, I like.
Okay, then you need not sabotage it in your mind and think maybe I should do something more. One can do this kind of meditations that you say, that you feel a light coming in, and that there are infinite numbers of, of things that one can do as meditations. But the essence of all those meditations is they should help you to catch your attention and bring it back to the essence, that you are consciously conscious here, consciously alive here. That if the meditation is doing that, then the meditation is good. And if mantra japa is something that comes to you naturally and you like to do so, then by all means, then do your mantra. But with the mantra also be careful, because after some time when the mantra is really well integrated, then we can do it very mechanically and the mind is still going all over the place. And then when you become aware that this is happening, that the thoughts are all over in spite of my chanting the mantra, silently or loud, still we can silently chant the mantra, and once this goes on a bit, automatically think all over the place at the same time. And when you become aware, you just redirect the attention, you bring it back to the mantra itself and relax. And if you do that, That's all you need to do. There's no need of sabotaging the simplicity and the beauty of it by thinking I should do something else.
Right. Thank you, Werner. Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om. All right. Let's round up this satsang with this. All religious practices, all spiritual practices, they have that essence. They may be as vastly different from one another as it can be, but the essence, what they should do, is to bring ourselves in conscious contact with what is. That is the point of any practice. And anything that helps us to do so, any structure that helps us to do so, any discipline that helps us to do so, is helpful. And then we can do practices and not at all develop that capacity to connect better, to connect more consciously. Then that practice does not help us. However beautiful it seems, however magnificent it's being praised, it should help us to connect, to consciously connect. We are connected in reality, but the attention is always off. And the essence of the different practices is that it helps us to connect easier. And if the practice does that, then that practice is good. And then we need not look for something else. And my experience is actually the simpler the practices, the more powerful they become if we have the patience to really, really go for it. Okay, let's stop it like this. Somebody keeps on calling at the gate. I wish you all well. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.